continue in English, and
Okay.
I'll check with the team. It's good.
Yeah, there's a bit of a lagging.
Hmm?
There's a bit of lagging.
Yeah, I think it's taking time to upload and stuff.
Don't think it's from my side.
Is there a problem?
Yeah, there's a bit of lagging from your side
Lagging.
and freezing.
Oh, okay. I'm not sure. Nothing is there yet. Okay.
I think my internet is fast enough.
Mm-hmm.
But again, I'm in Uzbekistan, so I think it's good now. Yeah.
Yeah, let's check. Okay, yeah, we're live on YouTube, so
Oh,
it should be good. Uh, all right, so I think we're getting people to join our session.
okay.
As soon as we'll have some more people, I think we can start.
Cool.
The quality of your video is a bit low for some reason. It's on the stream.
Mm, I'd assume that's because of the internet speed,
Mm,
which is not too bad.
okay, yeah, but I think as long as they can hear it, it should be relatively fine because anyway, it's gonna be recorded on local level, so we can just put it later on. Okay, we have a chat as well, so chat. If you can hear us clearly. So, all right, I will share the link on our socials, on the channels. Quality is bad. Okay, I don't know why. Uh, let's see. Yep. Do you think you can find a more stable connection? Because I think your quality is a bit low.
So that's me. Is me, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Because they're telling me that they can't really see your face as well.
Oh wow. Specifically came here because of the better internet connection. Just a second. Let me check if I have a better area
Okay.
closer to the router or something.
All right.
It should be slightly better.
Uh, the video quality, I don't think it really improved, but I hope I can hear you well. So, right, let's post on the channels that we have actually started the session.
Okay.
Let me check on my phone. How's it looking?
Yeah.
Right, yeah. I didn't expect
So
that you
yeah.
were. I thought you are already left for to UK.
Yeah, it's early next week that I'm
Mm,
leaving.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay. So I think it's relatively well. It's at least on YouTube. I'm watching
Mm-hmm.
it on my phone right now. So, guys, whoever watching us, whoever are on the live stream, please let us know if the voice is clear, if you can hear us well, because that's what's most important thing. Because we're going to be doing a lot of talking, and that's what you should be focusing on. So please comment in the live stream chat. The voice is clear, the voice is good, so that we can get started. And let me just post it on my channel as well so that we can get people
Okay.
to join. Okay, and YouTube, let's see. Let's get the link. All right.
It's an interesting platform. I've never used this before.
Yeah, now the Riverside. We've also recently discovered, and it has been quite useful with uh, things related to that and to especially podcasts, live
Mm.
streams, and we've been using it ever since.
Okay. Looks interesting.
Which region are you from in Uzbekistan, by the way?
Andijan.
Andijan, Andijan. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm from Namangan myself, so
Ah,
quite close. Yeah.
indeed. So you can expect why the internet is probably
Yeah,
playing around.
yeah. You do
Even with
have.
fiber, it's just
All right. We just started the session. Join us. This should be fine. All right. Let's get it started then. We'll have more people joining as we
mhm.
continue. So first of all, thank you very much for coming to Unicraft Spotlight. It's an honor, I can say, to host you and to have hopefully delightful 1 hour conversation with you. And without further ado, let's get started. And I'll start with my first question. So, your journey is actually quite interesting and remarkable from Westminster to Saudi Arabia and then to Oxford. I've read that you've studied business information systems at Westminster
Yeah.
and then computer
Yeah.
vision at uh, university in Saudi, and then you're studying AI in medicine at Oxford. Is that correct? So,
Well, it's not Saudi. It's a UAE. Just for
oh, it's in UAE. All right, all
yeah.
right. So how would you explain this kind of trajectory from from business information systems to AI in medicine? How would you describe your journey?
In short forms, I would say it's finding what I like to do, and um, basically pinpointing to that particular specification of the subject. If it's a computer science as a broad subject, the specification of that, particularly AI and specifically in medicine, is sort of like pinpointing exactly what I like to do. And I can say that I've spent like all of my academic life to um, sort of like search for that particular interest, and that's how I ended up there. And as you might know, at Westminster Business Information Systems is basically sort of like a combination of business and IT. So you take core IT courses and core business courses. So it's sort of like you're getting exposed to both sides of the story. Then by the end of it, I sort of like understood that I would like to continue in machine learning and AI. So I ended up choosing the university in Abu Dhabi to do my master's in computer vision, which is one of the subfields of AI. And during that time as well, I was working with medical applications of AI. Well, it was more theoretical, but the application would end up being in medical tasks. And yeah, so my transition was, I think it wasn't much of a big change, but the biggest change I would say is the fact that I'm with the medical sciences department, which is
Yeah.
quite, yeah, you might say absurd as well. But as I was talking to my professor, it's like, why, what would I do with a medical degree? And then he would say, it doesn't matter. It's as long as you get your degree and you get your the dissertation topic, the thesis topic is what matters.
Yeah.
And the topic itself is purely AI related. So I was happy with that.
And how would you compare? So now you've lived in Uzbekistan, you've lived in UAE, and you're living in UK right now. How would you compare living in those three countries? What are the similarities and differences you find?
One thing we should mention is that there is no such thing as a utopia. So every single place has its own ups and downs.
Yeah.
Um, so I can say that people here and in Abu Dhabi are much nicer and friendlier. But the ones in the UK are like their colleagues first and then friends second. And that's not the case in Uzbekistan and in the UAE. It's like you're friends with them first and then colleagues next. So that is sort of like the attitude of people and people around you. In terms of cultures, I think there's quite a bit of the similarity as well. Like as you might say, it's Uzbekistan is a Muslim majority country, and therefore the architecture, the lifestyle, and most of the things are sort of influenced by the religion. The same with the Abu Dhabi, but Christianity, for example, in the UK has a lot more influence in their architectural designs, in the way that they live their lives, and many other things. So, and if you talk about academics, the quality I can say is like it was like an increasing level of quality as I was walking up the stairs of academia. So we have a bit of academic work happening here, like scientific work happening here in Uzbekistan. Well, I'm based in Uzbekistan right now, so I'm saying here. Um, and as you go to Abu Dhabi, there the quality jumps up and becomes much better. But then when you go to the UK, especially at an institution like Oxford or Cambridge, the quality is like unequal. So it's a whole different level.
Mm, right. And so you've had the opportunity to study in all of these places on a full scholarship, right? As far as I
Yeah,
understand. And
yeah.
what do you think? Like, what was the reason, or like to put it simply, how did you get those all the scholarships? And I mean, it's hard for a lot of people to win a scholarship for bachelor's alone, and you've
Yeah,
got full scholarship for all your bachelor's and master's and PhD as well. So where did
yeah.
you find these kind of opportunities, or how did it work out for you?
Um, well, certainly it was not easy. I think that was the most difficult part of my journey. As a matter of fact, the financial component. At every single stage, you might even say that I lost a year due to the lack of funding. It's like right before I started my undergrad, I took a gap year because I didn't have funding, so I had to spend extra time to prepare for the university admission exams. The same goes for the master's degree. So I took a gap year in between to improve my scores, to improve my portfolio. And pretty much the same story. I took a gap year between master's and PhD, um, all of which were in academia, but so that I could build my portfolio to make it better and better. And then at each level, the requirements are different. So there's no like one particular golden rule that works for all. At Westminster, the admission exams, they are the only ones that play a role. That's an IELTS exam and mathematics exam. So the higher score you get, the better chances of you winning the scholarship. So they get the top tier, I think, like 20, 30 people.
Yeah.
But then as you go into the graduate school, that changes, and the focus shifts more on your overall portfolio, what you've done, what projects you've participated in, what kind of results that you brought out of those projects. So that shift happens in the graduate level, especially if you go to the PhD. That at that point, the whole focus shifts to scientific portfolio specifically, like what kind of scientific publications you've done, and what kind of quality you've achieved, and does it actually matter, the work that you've done. So I think that was more or less the thing. I think it was quite generic, but I mean, if you want the specifics, we can go deeper in that into that.
Mhm. And yeah, uh, I think the most interesting one would be your scholarship at Oxford. So, is it a merit-based scholarship or is it financial aid? And how much is it covered or how much you're paying yourself?
Yeah. So the degree itself is about 31 pounds, 31,000 pounds a year,
Yeah.
and it's a 3 to 4 year program. And my funding specifically comes from something called industrial fellowship. This is when you get the university and you get a particular industrial partner to to fund you, basically. That ended up being my funding. This is where we've got a company based in Oxford that's providing part of the funding, and we've got Oxford itself, the university department, covering the rest of it. I think it's around 50-50. So they cover the tuition, and then they pay me um, a stipend
The stipend.
or
So,
salary.
so you're basically studying for free.
Well, yeah, I'm even getting paid for it. Like,
Yeah, you're getting paid for it. So yeah, it's extra free.
yeah,
Right. That is actually fascinating uh, because a lot of people like struggle. You know that yourself to find scholarships for masters. I talk to a lot of graduates like at my university who are
yeah,
trying to get into master schools, but it's still very very difficult for them to secure any kind of scholarship. If
that's true.
So that is quite impressive. And since you're studying at Oxford, obviously Oxford is the kind of university that everybody would know about and everybody would aspire to go.
Yeah.
Could you tell us something that was very unexpected for you about studying at Oxford that most people would not know about?
I think it's a mindset. The mindset of people there is quite different, and I have never had that before. That's specifically in terms of scientific work that we do. Um, it's it's like what we had in Abu Dhabi was also like we have got a particular topic, and then we work within that topic to come up with novel methods in AI to solve some types of problems. So it's not problem driven, but rather paper driven. So the focus is get the paper done.
Yeah.
Uh, that's sort of like similar in Uzbekistan as well. But in Oxford, they take their time. They don't rush into these kind of things. And the approach is problem oriented rather than paper oriented. So they pick a particular problem and they get people from different disciplines to solve that problem. So the goal is not to get a publication, but rather to pinpoint a particular problem and find a solution to that problem.
Mm.
That way, you end up solving. Well, obviously, it's Oxford, so it's like a world scale problem in that you're trying to solve. And the publication is like a list of their worries. Um, so it's like, yeah, it doesn't matter. The publication will come. The thing is that let's just figure out how to solve this problem. So that's a sort of like a mindset that they have. So they're not rushed by time, but rather by the quality of their work.
Yeah. And I think that's quite important because at the end of the day, like you can have a long resume with a list of publications, but if you haven't done anything meaningful, then what's the point of all this, right?
Yeah,
And
exactly.
yeah, what I'm really curious is, uh, you obviously shared with your past experiences, and all of them are research related, research assistant, or working at
Mhm.
a certain centers. And I'm just curious, does it get overwhelming or boring or tiring doing research and like spending your most of like the best of your years on research? Because for me at least, I'm not really into research. I'm not the research type of guy, so I cannot
Mhm.
imagine spending so many years researching something or literally anything. So how does that work out for you? Do you actually really like enjoy the process of research?
Yeah, I do. I very much enjoy the whole process, and I'm on my break right now. I'm already missing uh, my work. Uh, um, it's I've actually done some internships during my undergrad in the industrial sector, and I didn't find 9 to 5 job my style.
Yeah.
Uh, so, and the other thing that I did was research, which I found extremely satisfying. And so I continued on, and as I continued on, I was like getting sucked into it more and more. Like I was at every single stage, enjoying the whole process. So I sort of understood that this is my way.
Yeah. So you don't enjoy 9 to 5 job, but you will enjoy 9 to 5 research.
It's not 9 to 5, so there's that flexibility in research. So you're not required to be present in a particular place,
Yeah.
like in a lab, for example, 9 to 5. So it's like project based, and the projects have their soft and hard deadlines. So as long as you deliver by the deadlines, and you're good to go. And as you get closer and closer to this deadline, obviously it doesn't become 9 to 5. It becomes like six to like I don't know, like 12.
Outside
Yeah,
sleep.
sometimes it
All
goes.
the hours outside of
Yeah,
sleep.
yeah, exactly. And the weekends do not also work out as you get closer to the deadlines. But other than that, like on a typical day, you're quite free. So even if
Yeah.
you are in the lab, you're happy, like you're fine to leave the lab to come back anytime you want. So there's no one like a direct manager dictating what you need to
Yeah.
do and what not.
What do you think? Like, what do you like? How do you distribute your time? Like while you were doing PhD, I think you've done it for. I think you started in January, right? So it's
Yeah,
around 6 months that you've done, that you've been working on your PhD, right?
yeah.
And how do you allocate your time? Like, what do you spend your most of the time on? Is it reading? Is it writing a paper? Is it doing experiments or going to companies and things?
Yeah, so well, the PhD at Oxford doesn't require you to take courses, so it's like full-on research, like
Yeah,
unlike the universities in the US, as you might know. So PhD is right away research. So all we do are just a bunch of projects that end up being research project. So my time, usually I start the day like early on and try to, like as I go to the lab, try to spend some of my time reading either a book or like a theoretical background book or a paper that I found interesting. So the publication that was done by other teams, by other people. So if I find them interesting, I usually pin them and then read them throughout, in the beginning of the day. That's either a couple of papers a day or some amount of book related to my subject. Um, and then I move on to different projects, and I've got a couple to handle to juggle at the same time. So depending on the mood, like if I want to do a project A today, I'll just focus on that and then forget about project B, and then
yeah,
I can easily shift around. Um, Throughout the day, most of the time I'm spending for data cleaning and building the models, so experimenting. The paper writing doesn't take too much of our time, so the thing is, the important thing is to get the results.
yeah.
So, and getting the results is not always easy. So you'll have to end up doing hundreds and hundreds of experiments. So most of the time goes on to that. And once you get reliable results, then you'll have to replicate that once again, and then you can sort of report that and then move on to the paper writing, which doesn't take too much time.
Mm. All right, so let's moving on into more of specifically your PhD and your field of study. I
Yeah.
obviously don't really want to have like I don't think I'll really like grasp the whole idea of what you're studying, but if you were to explain your PhD thesis to a 10-year-old,
Mhm.
how
Yeah.
would you describe it? Like in simple layman words, how do you describe your PhD?
Um, yeah, it's very difficult to explain to a 10-year-old.
Well,
uh,
you certainly can try, right?
so, yeah. Okay, so
For like
let's put this.
general anyone, like people who have
Yeah,
no idea what's up with AI, like people who just know that there is ChatGPT and that's all. How would you explain to them?
yeah. So I'd say there's three stages as of now in medicine. So the first stage is a diagnosis of a current problem. So that means that you already developed the problem and you go to the doctor and the doctor pinpoints that problem and like whatever disease you have, and then tries to provide provide medicine to sort of remedy the situation. That's sort of like the first stage. And the second stage would be early diagnosis. That the first is just diagnosis of the current state. The next one is early diagnosis. So this is when you go to the doctor and then you get just a regular checkup, and then based on the regular checkup, the doctor makes a prediction of your state, like in a year time, or 3 years time, or 5 years time, or 10 years time. So in that particular task, in the second stage, we can easily integrate AI to make more reliable predictions than a human doctor. So as it relies on a lot more data and a lot more population than a doctor, so the predictions of the AI model is much more reliable. So that's the second stage. And then the third stage, that's sort of directly linked to my thesis, is something called personalized medicine. So uh, targeted medicine, personalized medicine, precision medicine are three common terms used to mean more or less the same thing. So this is when you go to a doctor, but then the doctor actually takes well, understands your biological structure, which never happens with regular human doctors because they can never take a they don't take a tissue sample and then they don't make their predictions based on your biological aspects. So that personalized medicine is basically you rely on the DNA and RNA of a human, and therefore personalized treatment that they're supposed to get based on their biological features. So it would be similar to very easy to explain that in terms of education. So you've got a class full of 30 students, and
Yeah.
everyone is at their pace of learning, different learning styles, and they're learning from a single teacher. So obviously, there's quite a lot of discrepancy in their levels, and what you could do is you could personalize that education by understanding that person and their history and what they currently know, and therefore target that person using the exact topics that that person is lagging behind. So it's sort of like that, but in the field of medicine. So you understand the biological features of human, and based on that, you make more personal treatment plans.
Mm.
So that is what I'm working on.
And are you working on this project yourself, or there are a group of professors that you're working on with, mentors perhaps?
Yeah, so our group is quite a huge group, and it's a multidisciplinary group. My professor emphasized that a lot because
Yeah.
I usually say engineers and clinicians, and he gets angry. No, we are multidisciplinary group, meaning that we are not just two groups of people, but we got statisticians, we got data scientists, we got software engineers, we got AI engineers like myself. But on the clinician side, we've got cardiac surgeons, biologists, um, cardiologists, physicians, and analysts, image analysts, and a lot more. So all of them work towards a single particular goal, that problem, is picked by the professor, and it's actually a bunch of professors in our team actually, but a single one leading that project and others supporting that project. So the problem is picked by the professor, and the professor actually has a whole vision, to put all of the projects into the same storyline. And all these projects, small projects in the big vision, are completed by PhD students like myself, and everyone within the team contribute from their field of expertise. So I've got my own project, but I also have I think 3 or 4 other projects where I'm just contributing from the AI point of view. So there's less aspect of AI there and a more aspect of, for example, clinical side. So yeah, that's how it goes.
Um, what do you think is there one skill that you have developed during your PhD that you believe everyone should have?
Absolutely, yeah. So this is a
What
perfect
skill would
question.
that be? What skill would that be?
It's
Yeah.
it's a I think it would be interpersonal skills, so or communication skills, or you might say some parts of the soft skills overall. So I've been pointed out by the team and by my professor at Oxford that I have very poor interpersonal skills,
Hmm.
specifically when it comes to interviews and whatnot. Because I failed 2 interviews since I joined Oxford. Failed in the meaning that I was applying for other types of funding opportunities, and 2 of which did not work out. So it was specifically at the interview stage in both of them. So since I've joined, I've been working on my communication skills and my, a, I wouldn't say a nerdy guy, but sort of like not very sociable, sort of like introverted on that scale, slightly leaning towards the introvertedness side. So I've been working on my soft skills, so to say, to to be more sociable with people, to go up to go in front of a bunch of other people to present and all that. So yeah, I think that's a very important skill, especially at the age of AI, where most of the things are getting automated. So
Yeah.
it's not the hard skills that make you stand out, but rather how you present and how you sell that hard skill that what matters.
Uh, but do you think that your introvertedness kind of helped you in your career? Because I personally feel like as an extroverted person, it would be very difficult for me to spend time researching, you know? Maybe it's the introverts who have the potential to become the best researchers because they can just lock in, like stay away like from people for quite some time and focus on
Mm.
the work. Perhaps
Yeah,
that's your advantage. Like,
yeah, you're absolutely right at that point. But you you should learn how to, if you get that extroverted to introverted scale, 0 to 1, you should learn how to juggle and how to move on that scale up and down, and a person can actually do that. So it doesn't matter, however, how good quality your work is, if you cannot sell it, if you
so
cannot present it, if you cannot explain what's happening, then most of the time it's just worthless.
yeah.
So, uh, like, okay, you can be an introverted person, but then you should learn to go up to the public and explain your point. So that's where you have to push that scale to be more extroverted, and then you have to embrace that.
Yeah, I think that's also very like important for when you're doing college applications because it's what you show to the admissions committee that matters. It's not like
Exactly.
you might have the best skills, you might have the best kind of personality, you might have the most wonderful experiences, but if you can show that at the end of the day, it's your application and what you show that matters when they make
Precisely.
decisions.
Yeah.
Uh, how do you think AI will change the bioscience and especially medicine in the next 10 years? If you would make a prediction.
Uh, Sorry, could you repeat the question? There was. Uh,
Yeah. How do you think AI will change or perhaps revolutionize the bioscience or medicine in the next 10 years?
um, yeah, I think it would go like it's slowly going to that direction of precision medicine, as I was earlier talking about.
Yeah.
So, as of now, if we take the current practice of Uzbekistan, it's in the first stage where we're just diagnosing the people with a particular disease whenever they come complaining to the hospital, and trying to remedy the situation by providing some drugs and medicine, which is not a long-term solution, and it never works out because the disease is already developed, and once it's developed, it's very unlikely that it will go away. So all you can do, especially when we're talking about highly important diseases like cardiovascular disease, it can be like cancers, um, it can be cancer, it can be Alzheimer's and diabetes and whatnot. So when we're talking about highly important disease like that, uh, there's no going back. So the goal has always been, and is still in the developed countries, is to diagnose that early on so that you can sort of like block the development or progression of that disease. So in Uzbekistan, it's the first stage. In the West, they're focusing mostly on the second stage. But in the research, and hopefully very soon in practice as well, we're going to see the applications of precision medicine, and we're sort of seeing it already, one by one, but we should be able to see it more often. So that's when you go to a doctor, and then based on a very simple analysis, it can be based on your blood, it can be based on anything that we can get your DNA from. So they just analyze your DNA and then uh, provide the medicine specifically for you, targeted for that particular disease.
Mm,
So that's hopefully not so long into the future.
yeah. Hopefully, yeah. That
Yeah,
that that will obviously be a very good development, especially in Uzbekistan as well, since there has been like a lot of instances when you've seen that the doctors giving the kind of medicine that would negatively affect people that take it. So hopefully your research will we will see the results of your research in the medical sphere in Uzbekistan as well. And since we're talking about medicine and AI, there are obviously ethical questions as well. So,
yeah.
are there any kind of ethical dilemmas that you face, perhaps every day when you're doing research or you're doing lab work, that really concern you in a sense?
Um, from from the combination of AI and medicine, I think not really. So, well, that depends. Like in at a highly, let's say, reputable institutions like Oxford, they always follow the ethical rules. And the ethical rule is that if you want to use medical records and the personal information of patient in your research, then you have to get a consent form from them. So you actually have to go to every single patient and then explain your research in a way that they understand. And then you have to ask that for their consent, and then they actually have to literally sign the consent
Right.
form for you. So from that point of view, so the data that we use, pretty much every single patient has consented to for us to use their data in our research. But then the ethical question might be in well, underdeveloped countries. You might say low-income countries as well. What such ethical rules may not be followed.
Mm,
That might be due to the lack of uh, proper practice by the clinicians, but also it may be due to the level of ignorance by patients. So they might just say, "Well, I don't care. Do whatever you want," and that's not good. So they need to be educated about what it means if they use their data, and yeah. So that would be the only ethical question that I can think of. Other than that, reliability and explainability of the AI models, making predictions for the case of a human, like that may actually change the opinions of doctors. So I think that should be tested, and then that usually is tested until the model is quite reliable. And there's something called explainable AI as well that helps to understand why the model is making the decision that it is making.
yeah,
So with these aspects of AI, I think doctors can. Well, the idea is that doctors shouldn't blindly trust the AI model's output. So
yeah.
that's the idea. So that may be another ethical sort of like dilemma that AI models sort of maneuvering and then uh, not maneuvering, but rather changing the opinions of the clinicians. So
Mm. And obviously when people talk about AI, they immediately think about threats as well, that there might be some point when AI is going to take away jobs, they're going to replace certain careers. Do you think that
yeah,
that can happen in medicine, that there will be some point in the future where we will not need human doctors and everything will be done by AI? Do you think that's a possibility, or is it too far fetched idea?
you mean all of medicine,
Well,
all
mostly
of
like you go
medicine.
to clinic and you don't see a doctor, you don't meet with a doctor, but if it's just for diagnosis or anything related, but I wouldn't say that it would be replaced like the whole medicine sphere, but
Mhm.
primarily. let's say.
Yeah, it's very difficult to say, um, to make predictions for the future, but yeah, it's very, very hard to replace clinicians, to replace doctors. They play a huge role in human society, in our civilization. So, but when we're talking about all of medical practices, very unlikely because, well, it's not just a small thing of diagnosis, but also the actual treatment that plays a big role. So it's not that you need to find the problem, but actually you need to solve the problem. You need to find a disease and then you need to actually treat it. So doctors, especially when they're doing, for example, surgeries, and there's a lot of complications to that. So they play a huge role. And when we're talking about, well, on a lower level, so in the case of, jobs being done by AI and then people being jobless. So I think that is a common trend that's always been going on since far back. So since the era of technology, we have always been trying to automate things, and the things that have been automated are, well, they don't have their jobs anymore, but now there are a lot more other jobs that those people can do. And I can say that that is just the continuation of that trend. So we're going to have a lot more jobs disappearing, but also a lot more to fill in the gap. And I can say, as of now, we've already got a couple of jobs because of AI, and I don't see any particular job that has completely disappeared. So, like, we can say image analysts. So that's sort of like a new job, you might say, specifically checking how the model's predictions or how accurate the model's predictions. Um, we've got, how do we call them? The prompt engineers. That's a whole new, yeah, that's a whole new subject right now. Prompt engineering and prompt engineers are the new titles of many people. So that's a new job, you might say. But I cannot think of any job that's been lost yet because of AI. So, as a matter of fact, if you take it up until now, it's just creating new and new jobs. So, yeah.
Yeah. I'm gonna go a bit abstract. I hope you don't mind, but
Hmm.
you obviously know that yes, the generative AI is fun. Like they can create poems, they can do images, videos, and stuff. But ultimately, what I think most AI companies are trying to achieve is AGI, and
Hmm.
that's like the holy grail for AI companies and AI sciences. Do you think
Yeah.
we're close to that? And if we ever gonna achieve that level, what do you think is gonna be impact on medicine? Oh, I think uh, our audience, can you see Ikboljon or did he disappear? Well, yep. Sorry guys, we will get back him in a minute. Odd. All right. We had the power outage apparently. All right. Uh, No problem. All right. Anyway, I think there was some issue on the side of Ikboljon, but we hope you enjoyed this conversation and we hope it was very useful to you. We got to a most important question, but we'll hopefully have more collaborations with him and we'll get that answer to our question, the AGI question as well. So thank you very much for tuning in and we'll see you in the next episodes.